It's hard to believe today that the Naganadi river, which snakes through the northern part of Tamil Nadu, was once dry and dead. Kumuda Pannir Selvam, one of the resolute women of Vellore district who brought back the river to life, was a young girl when it began to disappear.
நான் சின்ன வயசாக இருக்கும்போது இந்த கிணறு தோண்டினாங்க, ஆளை வச்சு தோண்டினதே எங்களை மாதிரியே தோண்டினாங்க, தண்ணி வந்தது. அப்புறமா நிலத்துல எல்லாம் பயிர் வச்சாங்க. அப்புறமா மழை வராதனால தண்ணி இல்லாத போயிடுச்சு. அப்புறமா போர் போட்டு அப்புறமா தண்ணி வந்தது, பயிர் வைக்கிறாங்க.
At the time, farmers in the region relied heavily on cash crops like paddy, wheat and pulses that required an abundance of water to thrive. And digging deeper and deeper every year meant that the groundwater was steadily declining. By the early 2000s, the Naganadi river was no more. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In 2014, however, after years of hardship, things began to slowly change. With the help of a local NGO, the women in the village decided to come together to replenish the groundwater and resurrect the river that once served almost like a lifeline.
When we started working in this area, right, when the positive change, it kind of brought a lot of attention, and it turned out to be a miracle for some people, but it's very signs of how the whole hydrological cycle works. And the best part was that women folks around who are working could see the dramatic changes in terms of how groundwater situation is changing, how their situation associated to the water is changing. So that kind of moved the women folks to join more, and we need not have to do too much of hard selling in terms of why we need to do this and all that. So some positive results on the neighboring they used to come along, right? I mean, they should say that we want to work into this project, and that's a kind of how the whole strength came along.
The process was simple but labor intensive. The women worked long hours to build deep trenches in the ground called recharge wells that would trap water, draw it underground and store it until needed. Once the groundwater was replenished and when the rains came, the river started to flow again.
கை கால் வலிக்குது, மூச்சு அடிக்குது, அதில் படியில் ஏறுறது மூச்சு அடிக்கல, அந்த மாதிரி கொஞ்ச நேரம் நிதானமாக செஞ்சுன்னு வரோம். கொஞ்சம் நேரம் ரெஸ்ட் எடுத்துக்கிறோம், அப்புறமா மண் எடுத்துக்கிறோம். மாற்றி மாற்றி செய்யுது. ஒரு மணி நேரம் வேறு ஆள், அதுமாரி அவங்க ஏறிவிடுவாங்க, அப்புறம் நாங்கள் இறங்குவோம், அப்புறம் அதே மாதிரி மாற்றி மாற்றி செய்வோம்.
Over the last 4 years, these women have built more than 600 recharge wells and planted hundreds of drought-resistant saplings along the river basin.
Women, there are two things to it. They also work in the farming part of it. They know how water is essential. It's not that others do know, but it becomes very emotional for them to get along with this in terms of how they can help to rejuvenate or get the water back. They are the ones who are running around to get the water, right, from the home perspective, right, to have the water storage. So it became very important when we started mobilizing the crowd to find out who would work for us in terms of all these activities.
The Naganadi River Rejuvenation Project is carried out as part of the National Employment Generation Program, which supports work to build the country's commons. A steady source of income has ensured that these women enjoy some amount of financial independence. The success story in Kumuda's village has also been drawing women from neighboring villages to come forward and work. Saraswati, who started out carrying cement down to the trenches, today has formed a self-help group to build cement rings that are part of the process and keep the economy local. These rings go deep into the wells and hold water, much like the rocks that tend to hold water underground naturally.
இங்கே வந்து நாங்கள் ஃபஸ்ட்டு ரீசார்ஜ் வேலை செஞ்சுன்னு இருந்தோம். அது சிமெண்ட் வர இறக்கி அது செஞ்சுருந்தோம். அது சிமெண்ட் வர பற்றாக்குறை ஆயிடுச்சு. அப்புறம் வந்து எங்களுக்கு குருஜி வந்து யோகா பயிற்சி செஞ்சுருந்தார். அப்புறம் வாழுங்கலையில் எங்களுக்கு வந்து இந்த ரிங்கு செய்கிறதுக்கு எங்களுக்கு ட்ரைனிங் கொடுத்தாங்க. அது மூலயமா நாங்கள் வந்து இப்போ ஒரு குழுவாக அமைச்சு ஒரு ரிங்கு செஞ்சு இப்போ அந்தந்த இதுக்கும் கொடுத்துன்னு இருந்தோம். எங்களுக்கு நல்ல வருமானம் வருது. அதனால் ஃபஸ்ட்டு அதுக்கு முன்னெல்லாம் வந்து ஒரு பாகம் தான் வைப்பாங்க. இப்போ இந்த நீர் ரீசார்ஜ் வேலை செய்யறதுனால எங்களுக்கு தண்ணி ஆழம் அதிகமாகுது. 2 பாகம்லாம் வைக்கிறோம். இப்போ பரவாயில்ல, எல்லாம் நல்லா சந்தோஷமாக இருக்கும்.
The project has so far helped nearly 60,000 people like Kumuda, Saraswati and their families. With nearly 9,000 hectares of agricultural land reclaimed and a staggering 6-meter rise in groundwater levels. But the work is far from over.
Our team wants to help the farmers, want to grow less water-intensive crops. As important we create the supply side of the water, we have to also tackle the demand side of the water, which means that the farmer has to know what is the best way to use the water, and that is where we kind of work with them in the long run to educate them, to give them the market which is needed so that they are aware and they can come along in terms of not feeling the risk of losing out on the income.
What the women of Vellore district have achieved, however, is no small feat. They have brought a dead river back to life, and they continue to do all they can to make sure their children don't endure the hardship they did.